Okay.
That's why this is up here.
All right. So, and do you want to?
Sure, why not?
Over here. So, welcome to our class, and obviously Adrienne is a registered nurse. And can you tell us a little bit about your work?
Sure. So I'm a registered nurse, and I do have my master's in nursing. I'm currently in the PhD program here at UCLA, but what I do for research is a little different than what I do for my career. So I've always been a utilization review / quality assurance nurse, and I currently work for Oscar, which is a new insurance company out of Manhattan, and so I do a lot of advising there.
Name, Oscar.
Have you guys heard of Oscar? You've never heard of Oscar? Go home and check it out. It's a fun business model. We really focus on using technological solutions, so you can have an app on your phone that immediately directly contacts your nurse practitioner or your physician. You can show them what's wrong on you, and they can send your prescription through. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's technically a tech company that happens to do healthcare.
So now, when you started off your education, did you start off immediately in nursing, or how did that all happen?
Yeah, I did not. I started undergrad here at UCLA. I didn't do nursing, but when I left UCLA, I started working in healthcare, doing quality and utilization review. I also did some work in the arts, and I decided that what the nurses were doing seemed like not only a fulfilling job, but that there was huge room for growth there. There was a lot of information that I wasn't privy to unless I'd had that education, so I was kind of limited in moving forward in the healthcare field. So I actually have what we call an ELM. I think you guys call that an ELM. It's an entry-level master's in nursing. So I went to Charles Drew, so that's how our program. I think you're Meccans here.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the equivalent. So my master's is in nursing. You do all the same prerequisites as you do for a BSN program, but you already have your bachelor's, so that's how you do it.
And then when you say that the work that you do as an RN is utilization review, can you explain a little bit more what that means?
Absolutely. So I am very much a research algorithms data nerd, and I love making decisions that are not only evidence-based, but that follow a logical pathway that allows nurses to do on-the-job decision-making that reflects this research. So it's not just saying this is our policy and procedure, this is what we do, but being someone who helps companies generate those policy and procedures. So in particular, when I'm doing utilization, I want to see are our patients over or underutilizing the resources that we have available. Because if you overutilize resources, you stay too long, you get a nosocomial infection, you have a fall, something really bad happens to you, so it's actually worse to stay in the hospital longer sometimes. And if you don't stay long enough, then you go home and something happens and you have to go right back to the emergency department. So it's understanding that it's a balance of getting the right health care at the right time and not just getting everything you want because it seems like what you want.
And then helping nurses to be able to gauge better what is going to be not too much and not too little and helping the decision making, it sounds like, too.
That's true. It's also about recognizing that on a daily basis, people have to make population-based decisions. Most of our evidence-based practice is population-based, but it doesn't recognize that individuals are holistic beings and exceptions need to be made. So the key role of the nurse is to take the evidence-based practice and kind of humanize it and make it a multifaceted experience and really gauge what's right for the person in front of me based on population-level data.
Population-level data being numbers about huge groups of people and what are the trends and looking at it statistically and understanding what's happening and what's not. Quick little segue. You mentioned that you've done stuff in the arts, and I actually got to look at a book that had, I don't know how many murals that you've been a part of creating. Can you tell us a little bit about that work in your life?
Sure. So before I went back to nursing school, I was a full-time muralist here in Los Angeles. We have a huge mural tradition. And since I've become a nurse and I've started to kind of look at the impact that public art has in communities, I've been trying to infuse the public art that I do so that it's an actual intervention, so people see positive projections of healthcare issues and hopefully it impacts their behavior. So right now on York Boulevard, which is in Highland Park, I have a Albert Schweitzer fellowship, and it's going, and we're painting a mural, and it's about re-envisioning the elder Latina who disproportionately suffers from diabetes in the community and in the country as an active participant in physical activity, as an active participant in food choices for the family. So basically making sure that that role is envisioned as an acceptable, healthy person and not necessarily as a person who is the recipient of government regulations or food deserts, which we're going to talk about, or all these other things that tend to be kind of put on this figure. So it's really an empowerment project, and we're looking to see if it kind of changes some perspectives people have in the community.
And what I know about that is that you actually, as a nurse, you went out to a community and partnered with a community group who wanted a mural. And so you're actually working with people who make use of that community group and the leaders of that community group, and you're discussing things together. But ultimately, you will paint together a large mural depicting an elder Latina woman in a healthy lifestyle. Of
Absolutely.
exercising and things like that.
The key nursing component is that it's not about me showing up and telling people what I think they need. It's very much about going to a community and forming bonds and relationships there and doing an assessment and allowing them to really express what their needs are and to see where that gap is and how I can facilitate movements they already have within the community and kind of support the efforts that exist instead of just kind of showing up and going like, this is what I'm going to do.
So I know there's people in the room who have a variety of different talents and abilities, and some of you may be artists, some of you may be tech savvy, some of you may be writers, but what's really great is to be able to talk about a real experience of a nurse who has all these other talents and is finding ways to even get funding, because you are funded to do this mural. So it's actually paying you to do this work, but also it's not a lot of money, but it's enough money for the materials, and then writing it up and going through the process, and it's truly exceptional. However, you are a doctoral student here as well, and can you tell us a little bit about what you're studying and why you are doing that?
Absolutely. So I study type 2 diabetes in elder Latinas. I study diabetes in particular because it's all over my family. I personally had type 2 diabetes. I grew up in a Mexican-American household, and it was something that we really saw as just destiny. I've seen a lot of really bad outcomes personally, and then working in the communities in Highland Park, Eagle Rock area, I've seen the serious impact it's had on the community. Older women suffer disproportionately in this community of diabetes compared to even men in their same age cohort. So it's an issue that you can absolutely support with data. It's an issue that hasn't really been able to identify certain factors that are going to make a huge difference. So we're still very much trying to identify and understand the experience and the phenomenon. So as a doctoral student, what I'm doing is looking at generating research that is about understanding that experience. So looking at that first year of diagnosis for these women and really exploring what that means to them, how they experience the diagnosis itself, maybe how they interact with the healthcare field. I can't really project what it's going to result in because it really is about their voices and them kind of letting us know and informing the research. As I'm sure you all know probably, research hasn't always been the most diverse area. And so I really believe in minority research being done by minority researchers, but I also really believe in advocates of minorities doing minority research, and that's really kind of what I'm pushing.
So advocates and allies.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
your dissertation is going to involve interviews and then transcriptions of these long interviews and then analysis in order to see what the women are saying. I'm wondering if anyone has any questions for Adrienne.
There's a lot to take in, huh? A lot of topics there.
Well, and you met somebody new every single week, except for when Tiffany and I spoke. So I have a question. You've done art, you've done utilization. I believe you've been offered jobs to be directors and administrators that you've passed up because I won't say why, but you've passed those up. Why do you pass those things up? And why do you stay in nursing?
So I have spent 16 years in the corporate world in addition to being in school and doing various things. And you will make a lot of money and you will learn things. But what I found, especially once I got through the master's level, was that there's a learning curve. And maybe your learning curve is a year, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 5 years. But at some point, no matter where you're working, you're going to know everything there is to know about that floor. Everything there is to know about that type of infusion, or everything there is to know about that algorithm making. And in these jobs, I've really found that I hit a place where I'm just not comfortable anymore being stagnant. So continuing my education is so thrilling, you guys. It's so exciting to go to these conventions. It's so exciting to actually talk to people who are being impacted by this stuff. Working on the floor is a beautiful thing. It's a great option. But I really encourage you to just keep going because you will rapidly accumulate so much knowledge and you're going to really feel pressed to share it. And I definitely felt that way. So that's why. There literally isn't enough money that you could pay me in a corporate setting to not do what I'm doing. And part of that is setting up my life so that, I'm taken care of, my family's taken care of, you're relatively successful, but I'm at the place where I can really decide, is this who I want to be? And is this going to satisfy my intellectual curiosity in 10 years? And these types of jobs I described, it's just not. So.
Okay. And I know that as we go into, because obviously you're going to be a guest speaker for us today on food deserts, and that will address a lot of the issues, I think, that are related to social justice and why you've gone into this aspect of your career. So at this moment, unless there's other questions, oh, there's a question.
Yes, I mean, you seem very passionate. Just wondering, how long have you had that? Is it something, is that one of the things you think you've always had growing up?
No. And I will say that, unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of health care when I was growing up, despite our condition. So I didn't even know that nursing was a thing, believe it or not. And I didn't find it until later in life. And as soon as I started actually interacting with patients and started connecting with professors who were also passionate, it made me realize, oh my gosh, I'm a nurse. I've always been a nurse. I just didn't know. And so the longer I stay in this field, the more excited I am. And most of my friends are not nurses, doing financially very well, and I just don't see that same ethos spark that I have, and so I always encourage people, it's never too late. You can always go back to a program. Okay.
So to clarify, so tell me if I'm wrong, so it's something about connecting with patients and realizing that you have sort of this healing, caring, educating nurse identity, that somehow is, when it takes flight, it's exciting for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you can be, there's a bell curve of all of us, right? And every single level of whatever we are, intelligence and empathy and everything. You can literally be anywhere along there and be a nurse and find the role in nursing that appeals to you. So if you want to be a data scientist, I work with data scientists at Oscar and inform the creation of their, of the way they actually crunch the numbers that we get. Or if you want to be a hospice nurse, bless you, wonderful. Maybe that's who you are. There's so many things to do in nursing that literally whatever you do in your non-nursing world, you could be doing it as a nurse and doing quite well. It just requires the education and dedication. But it's so satisfying to my soul, I have to say. When people ask me who I am or what I am, that's the first thing I say usually. So, yeah, that I'm a nurse.
Very inspiring.
This isn't a question, so it's a comment. I just want to say you're doing great with the public speaking.
Oh, yay! I tend to get overexcited, so thank you.
All right, well, that's high praise. Well, thank you very much. I'll go. So let me invite you to take a seat, and I'm going to do a little introductory review and discussion to set up the segue that we will take then to talk specifically about food deserts with Adrienne. And I think we can look for it. So I'll just think. Okay. So